Hello everyone, my name is Rob, welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video I'm going to be giving you my semi-final predictions from the Rugby League World Cup. So let's get started. So before I get into the two semi-final predictions, I'm just going to quickly run through last week's predictions in the quarterfinals. I went with Australia 58, Lebanon 14. The score was 48-4 in favour of Australia, so I had the right gap, which was 44 points. Close enough, I guess. I took Australia on the minus for a betting scenario, which was minus 42.5, and they got that. England versus Papua New Guinea, I went with 48-24. They won 46-6, another 40-point gap there. I took them in the minus at 22.5. New Zealand, I had them as 52-12, not even close. They only won 24-18, which is a 6-point gap. And Tonga vs Samoa had them winning 28-22, and they lost. Samoa won 20 points to 18. So if you were to follow the handicaps in a betting scenario, you would have lost money. So yeah, did get one team incorrect, which I think was from the most obvious game for a potential upset, which was Samoa beating Tonga. So that's 3 out of 4 this week, and a total of 24 out of 28, which is, again, like I said last week, most people probably could have got, except for maybe the England-Samoa game I got wrong, Lebanon-Ireland I got wrong, Tonga-Samoa, I can't quite remember the other game, but yeah, I think most people could have got around this at this point, but we'll move on to the semi-final predictions now. Starting with the first of the two semi-finals, we have Australia versus New Zealand. Bet365 has Australia as favourites by 12.5 points. This might end up being a slightly somewhat crazy prediction to some people. The way I see it is that New Zealand's pretty much played with their best 13-man squad. They've used it near enough week in, week out, for the exception of Jerome Hughes. And the 2 games he's played, first game back he was exceptional, and the second game he was shut out quite a lot, especially in the first half against Fiji. And unfortunately, players like Dylan Brown haven't really shown up yet, so I'm kind of worried about the spine. I've got no issues with the forwards. I think the forwards will be great. I think it'll be quite an even battle between Australia and New Zealand in the forwards, but I don't get the impression that New Zealand's going to create much. In moments where they're shut out, especially against Fiji, nothing was really happening. The second half, they kind of mixed things up a little bit, and Fiji were getting quite tired based on the level that Fiji normally plays at, the players on their team. Fatigue was an issue, but that's not going to be an issue with Australia. And their defence has been incredible this entire tournament. So I'm actually really worried for New Zealand, and I think that the 12.5 points is understandable. I see where Bet365 is coming from, and that'll be roughly similar with most bookmakers anyway. But I think Australia's not always been clean. They've had their moments of rust and sloppiness, but the defence has shut basically everybody down. Now, it's what we expect from Australia, but this will be the toughest test, I think. But I think they're good enough to deal with it and be quite comfortable in this game. Plus, Nathan Cleary's been dominant. Cherry Evans has been dominant. Harry Grant's been incredible. So has Ben Hunt. You've got players like Campbell Graham performing out of his skin. Same with Josh Addo-Carr. Latrell Mitchell, Valentine Holmes have been quality. And then you've still got Jack Whiten and Matt Burton that can come on in the centres or in a halfback position. It's just, the depth is crazy. It doesn't matter how much you mix up the Australian team. It's world class everywhere. But with New Zealand, it feels like you take one player out and it's lacking. So the spine needs to be on top form for New Zealand. I feel like players like Brandon Smith will be so important at hooker, really setting the tone. I think if New Zealand are going to do some damage, it'll be through field position in the forwards. It starts with Brandon Smith, who's capable of doing it. But Australia's defence is just too good. And I think they'll find so many ways to open up New Zealand. So I would take the minus for Australia at 12.5 points. And I'm going to go with a prediction of Australia 48, New Zealand 12. Onto the second semi-final, which is England versus Samoa. Bet365 has England as favourites at -8.5. England have been very consistent so far, especially with their forwards. Now, there have been moments of sloppiness. I think the France game was an indication of that. But they were fine. They were fine against Samoa. There were some kind of shaky moments in the first 10-15 minutes, but then they kind of got through it. The second half was a lot stronger. A little bit shaky against France at times, fine against Greece, and exceptional against Papua New Guinea. But I think the forwards have been the most impressive thing, and especially Tom Burgess has been outstanding. But people would normally associate people like Tonga, Samoa, Papua New Guinea and Fiji as being the ones with the biggest forwards. But I think expectations-wise, England have been the most impressive with their forwards because people don't expect England's forwards to be that dominant and instead come from the four nations which I just mentioned. Now, Samoa's done well to kind of get back into the rhythm that we expected them to be in. A lot less errors. Now, if we take the matchup from round one, there was a lot of errors. So that was one key reason why England got such good field position a lot of the time, but they didn't do well enough to actually stop the flow of tries that England got. Now, the sin bin didn't help from Milford, but I think it was Milford that got it. But at that point, I think the damage was already done long before that. So they're showing a much better attacking flow at this point, Samoa. Less errors. Luai is now getting involved a lot more and is playing in the way that we expect him to. I feel that England will do a good job at stopping Samoa's flow for a lot of the game. And as I mentioned in their match review versus Tonga, that they know how to create things in the off-the-cuff moments. So that might be the best case scenario for Samoa. I think they'll be fine in the forwards. But I think England's going to win the forward battle here. Because they were dominant against Greece, who you'd expect. They were strong against France, who I will admit have had a pretty decent forward pack this World Cup. And they were dominant against Samoa and Papua New Guinea in the forwards. Two teams that you expect to be using that as their bread and butter. But England have dominated those teams. And I feel that would be the case again. That'll be the difference. I think the backs will be able to create, but England will be in much better field position and be able to pin Samoa back a lot more and have less errors. They haven't made too many errors this World Cup. And Sean Wayne will want them to be perfect this week. So I think there's a possibility of this being close. Not too close. But I would take the -8.5 on England, and I'm going to go with a scoreline of England 30, Samoa 20. So that's going to be it for this video. If you have any predictions on the semi-finals, let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with new content. You can also follow the social media accounts in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.